Genie warlocks make pacts with beings of elemental power that rivals lesser deities. These noble genies control vast swaths of the elemental planes and often also contract lesser genies as well. I absolutely love where this archetype is heading. I love that it's just a little pinch of I've got friends on the other side with you ain't never had a friend like me. And something that I also think is really interesting is that this is one of our first new, really versatile elemental archetypes. In fact, the only other one I can really think about is Draconic Sorcerer. Of course, there are options like the Tempest Cleric or the Storm Sorcerer, but those do put you in a very deep niche, not really letting you pick an elemental type in favor of specializing in one, but we will not see that here. In fact, in a very Warlock way, the Genie Patron just has options inside of options. At first level, you choose a Genie kind, choosing one of the 4 elemental options. If you don't want to pick, you can also roll a d4 to choose one randomly. This is important as it will affect features later on. Speaking of, at first level, when you choose this patron, you gain expanded spells. These spells are added to the Warlock spell list for you and can be chosen when you choose a new Warlock spell. There are some spell options that you get just from having a Genie Patron, and then there are also a specific list for each of the 4 types, which you gain access to depending on which one you picked. There's a lot of detail here, so I won't talk ad nauseum about each specific spell. If you do want to look at those, you can pause the video on that section. However, I do want to talk about these in relationship to each other, and there is a pretty clear best choice here to me. Starting off with what I think is the worst option is the Genie option. It just has spells that aren't really super useful. Thunderwave is handy, but not better than other options you would get from base Warlock. And then Gust of Wind and Wind Wall are both fairly situational. Greater Invisibility and Seeming are great, but they just come too late. Marid has a similar problem of spells coming too late, and in a second place, I do see Tao being a really solid option for this. You get that Defensive Sanctuary at first level, which does compete with your bonus action economy of Hex, but doesn't compete for concentration, meaning you can pop it before or after you have Hex. And otherwise, the rest of the spells we see here are pretty solid. Spike Growth is a personal favorite of mine, and spells like Meld into Stone and Stone Shape are really easy to use in fantastically creative ways, and I love them for that. However, optimally thinking, the Efreeti is just the best Genie kind choice. We see a lot of really powerful spells here. You can't say no to Fireball, and the ability to always have these upcasted because you're a Warlock just increases their effectiveness. This is also the only spell list option that synergizes with their other first level ability. At first level, you also gain Genie's Vessel. You gain access to a tiny object, a vessel of your Genie's power. You determine what exactly that object is, and it is a spellcasting focus for your Warlock spells. Furthermore, while you are touching the vessel, you can use it in the following ways. Bottled Respite. As an action, you can magically transport yourself into your vessel. Inside is an extra dimensional space that has a 20-foot radius and is 20 feet high. You can remain inside the vessel for a number of hours equal to your proficiency bonus, and while you are in the vessel, you can hear your surroundings as if you were in the vessel space. You exit the vessel early if you use a bonus action to do so, if you die, or if the vessel itself is destroyed. When you do exit it, you appear in the closest unoccupied space to it, though you can leave objects in the vessel as long as the vessel is not destroyed, at which point they will all appear harmlessly in unoccupied spaces closest to it. Once you leave the vessel, you cannot enter it again until you finish a long rest. You also gain Genie's Wrath. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to your proficiency bonus. The damage type of this extra damage is determined by your patron, which is bludgeoning for Tao. It can be thunder for Genie, fire for Ifriti, or cold for Marid. I'll admit, I was really skeptical when I first looked at the Genie Patron, and I didn't really think it would be for me, but this ability immediately won me over and got me thinking about all of the possibilities. First off, looking at the options that they give you for your vessel, the best option by far is the ring. You can put it on your finger. It's innocuous. It's not weird. Also, if you are in a heist situation or you need to sneak into or out of a place, you can go inside the ring and someone else can put it on and sneak you out no problem. There's also no weirdness when using the ring and your bottled respite ability, which I think is so cool. I mean, this is a kind of limited bag of holding. Well, I say limited in that you can only use it once per long rest, but it also has a lot of advantages. There's no weight restriction on it, so you can have something as big as you want as long as you can pick it up before you go into your extra dimensional space. It is then in there, safe and sound, and incredibly difficult to get to unless you, the Warlock, wish for it to happen. I can easily see this being used for some Warlock shenanigans when they are just about to die and just about to go down, and right before that final blow can be struck against them, they disappear into their ring. Oh, I also really surprisingly like the Genie's Wrath ability a lot because it is very pact agnostic. It does not care whether you are a blaster warlock or a blade lock. All the same, it will apply as long as you are making attack rolls, which is key. This ability is actually, again, why I think Ifriti is the best option, because it is the only patron that gives you a spell that requires an attack roll, being Scorching Ray. Now, the trade-off of that is that the fire damage is the worst damage type, but then it also becomes one of the best damage types later, which is weird. So this does create a bit of a gamble, and it does make the choice a little tougher because you'll need to decide whether you want that extra damage to be resisted more often or if you want some more useful spells, and I like that. I like that there are some choices to be made. At 6th level, you gain Elemental Gift and begin to take the qualities of your patron's kind. You gain resistance to a damage type depending on your patron. For Tao, that's bludgeoning. For Genie, that is thunder. For Ifriti, fire. And for Marid, cold. Furthermore, as a bonus action, you can give yourself a fly speed of 30 feet for 10 minutes and can hover with this fly speed. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before you have to spend a long rest to do so again. They fly now. This is such a common feature in this book that I almost wish they just put it as a variant rule for every single class, that at a certain level, you can fly. I'll give them a bit of credit that this is a flavorful option for this patron, and I do see it. It is just so silly to me how many players can fly now. You did this, Tasha. I hope you're happy with your choices. The flavor of this ability is really cool, that you're starting to turn into something akin to your Genie Patron. I think that's awesome. And the abilities are very helpful. And it does depend on your DM and the campaign you're running, how useful they will be. But once again, we will see that the Afridi and the Dao really shine. There is a stupid amount of creatures that deal bludgeoning damage, so being able to just resist that is incredibly useful. And fire damage actually becomes really interesting here, because while fire is one of the most resisted and immune to damage types, it is also one of the most common damage types dealt. So resisting it can be incredibly useful. And flying, I mean, you fly, that's cool, I guess. At 10th level, you gain Sanctuary Vessel. Whenever you use the Bottled Respite ability, you can bring up to 5 willing creatures that you can see within 30 feet into the vessel with you. As a bonus action, you can eject any number of creatures from the vessel. Although if you leave the vessel, everyone else leaves with you too. In addition, any creature, including yourself, who spends 10 minutes in the vessel benefits from a short rest. And in addition, if they spend any hit dice as a part of that short rest, they regain extra hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. Yes, we like this. I support it. I will always support abilities that build up off of earlier abilities, and this is great. And it really opens up the usefulness of your vessel. At this level, you will be able to long rest in the vessel if you wish, and if your vessel is something like a ring, setting that down in the middle of a forest, there's no way anybody's going to be able to find that. And the 10-minute short rest thing is great too. I think the only thing to think about here is if you're a DM who uses the heroic resting rules. I actually don't know how common these are, but if you're using the heroic resting rules, you can already short rest in 10 minutes, so that does kind of make that part of the ability less useful. I would maybe think about potentially allowing them to short rest in a minute, which sounds super quick. However, they can only do it once per long rest anyways, and it would be a really cool way to ratchet up tension. If everybody's in the middle of a dire fight and people are dropping like flies, the Warlock can take everybody into their ring, and then they can hope to be able to rest up in that minute before the bad guys can find the ring and successfully destroy it. I think that's a really powerful and engaging. And who's going to say no to a couple extra hit points? And then the last ability for the Genie Patron is Limited Wish. At 14th level, as an action, you can speak your desires into your Genie's Vessel and can cast a spell of 6th level or lower that has a cost of 1 action from any class's spell list. You do not need to meet the requirements for that spell, including costly material components. However, once you use this ability, you can't do so again for 1d4 long rests. Now, this is the ability that I feel like everybody comes here for. That is a stupidly versatile and cool and flavorful ability. I could see so many creative options coming out of this because it is very helpful to anybody playing the game. I mean, it's 1 free 6th level or lower spell slot once per 1d4 long rests. That is no joke awesome. But on top of that, it becomes so much more useful to people who really know the game and really know the spells that they can cast, and will be useful no matter what situation you're in because you can cast like any spell. That's crazy. Like I said, I was really unsure about the Genie Patron at first. I didn't know if it was going to live up to my expectations or even what my expectations were, but the Genie Patron really won me over here. This is really cool. I think as far as interesting multi-classing here, I would look at Sork Locks or Coffee Locks, whatever you want to call them. I think that this patron can really benefit from turning elemental damage types into other ones. And so being able to readily transmute your spells as needed would be super, super helpful for this archetype. But even then, just taking 3 levels of a sorcerer so that you can get that transmuted spell and something else you like, and then every once in a while being able to transmute your upcast Scorching Ray into something else will be super duper useful. All in all, I think this patron is great. As far as power level is concerned, I see this as something much more in line with the Hexblade or the Celestial. This is definitely a step above everything in the player's handbook for the Warlock, but I do think it sits very fairly and very nicely with those other 2 options. As far as a ranking for this patron goes, I think I need to give it 5 cauldrons out of 5. It is incredibly useful, versatile, and flavorful. Every single feature it has builds on the theme or another ability that they already got. I really don't have a lot of complaints here except for its focus in damage type, which can be easily circumvented in other ways. How do you feel about the Genie Warlock? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love hearing your guys' thoughts about these. If you like this video, consider liking it. And if you like the kind of content we do here, please consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed to the channel and you want to find some other way to help us out, I can't tell you how much it would mean if you shared our content. That is so helpful for us reaching new people and getting to even greater heights. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you on your next short rest. Hi guys, I just want to give a quick shout out to our first patron ever on Patreon, Painted Sky. Thank you so much for the support. I can't tell you how much it means to us.